Alright, we start then with the first class about the Z-spheres. Focused on bipeds, in this particular case on people, basically human beings, with 2 legs. In the case of the previous course, it was more about a quadruped. So the matter is quite simple. We'll start by selecting a tool. In this case, let's click and look for Z-spheres. I won't get into details since I think everybody should be familiar and able to manage Z-spheres. However, I'll remember some important topics related. On this part, we'll be covering what regards the legs. We'll make progress as fast as possible, explaining some important topics throughout the whole process. So, first, if I want to create a Z-sphere, this will work as the hip. I want to create the legs. So what I'll first do is to hit X, and Zbrush enables symmetry in order to let me create a symmetric object. I'll proceed to click and drag, like so, and by hitting W, I have the quick access to move. We'll start now to mechanize the use of shortcuts, since the time that would take us to go to the button and come back to the object would be a waste of time. At this point, we already are on a production basis. So, let's hit W to move. In this case, hitting E, we can scale, and R for rotating. Using Q for draw, it would be for creating a new Z-sphere. So I just go to this portion down here, where I want to create it, like so, with a similar size more or less. In this case, what I'm making is the femur. For the femur, in this case, I'm creating 2 Z-spheres. This would be the knee. This is not so relative on our final result. I like making it this way, so it adds a number of polygons. Excuse me, I enable polyframe for an instant. In order to visualize the mesh, Zbrush is adding a number of polygons that we'll check later to get as close as we can regarding size on the body. But for the time being, it's what is taking the shape under control. I'll create another one over here. Let's always try to create the sphere accordingly to what we need in size as much as possible. I'll create the calf over here. So I'll scale it a bit using Q. I'll create another Z-sphere and keep getting down. In this case, I'll select this, and by hitting W again, some recommendations. Obviously, well, probably not that obvious, but it's quite important. For us to work with a graphic tablet, generally speaking, using an Intuos, well, in this case I'm working using an Intuos, but actually on ZBrush, I haven't noticed such a big difference, at least on a first process. It's not so different to work with a Wacom Intuos or Cintiq. I have a Bamboo tablet, also an Intuos. The Bamboo costs $50, the Intuos costs $500, and I haven't noticed a great difference in ZBrush. I have noticed a difference when it comes to illustration or anything similar, like in Photoshop or that sort of software. But in this case, I haven't noticed a difference. So if you don't have a tablet and you want to purchase one, you can start with a cheap tablet for $30 or $50. It'll work perfectly. Using the mouse, it'll get difficult at certain point. So it's important to keep that in mind. Alright, right now, I'll go to the right side, over Adaptive Skin, and I'll hit Preview. Let's remember its shortcut is A. I'll decrease the density to 1. I'd like to handle a few polygons. And I'll adjust this little bone over here. I simply move it, and ZBrush adjusts the mesh automatically. That's why it is called Adaptive Skin, like an adjustable skin. With this first class already for the creation of the legs, then we'll proceed on the next class with the torso and arms.